This is the makeup of the council. Quite a lot of red. I don't want a red.
Well, yeah, me, I'm always.
Turn out. Let's see if they're not available.
Councillors, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding to receive His Worship the Mayor, Councillor Mike Boo, accompanied by the Chief Executive, Mr David Wellesby.
Good afternoon, everyone. Please be seated. Welcome to the March meeting of the Council, which will be my last full meeting in the role of Chair. Time has certainly flown by, and I have thoroughly enjoyed my year there. I have learnt a lot. I feel that I've been in a very privileged position, and I have seen the best of Hindman. I've seen all voluntary work that goes on. I've seen the commitment that our community champions put into making people's lives better. And I have learnt an enormous amount from those people, from their commitment to making Hindman a better place. Before we get underway, members are reminded that the meeting may be filmed or otherwise recorded by councillors or members of the public. The public are respectfully asked not to continue filming after the meeting has ended and must not film people elsewhere in the building without their consent. There is no fire drill planned for this evening, so if the alarm rings, please make your way to the muster point on Broadway by the public telephone kiosk which faces Union Street. Apologies for absence. Apologies for absence have been received from councillors Andy Clegg, Shabir Fazal OBE, Marlene Howard and Claire McKenna. Are there any other apologies for absence?
Yes, Mr Mayor, Councillor Stephen Button.
Councillor Stephen Button. Any others? Thank you. Declarations of interest and dispensations. Are there any declarations of interest or dispensations? Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, it's agenda item number 6, and I'd like to declare a personal interest that I'm also a trustee at Carers Link, Lancashire.
Thank you, Councillor Fisher. Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Eunice?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And item 8, I'm very interested because of the council's tax on rental property.
Thank you, Councillor Eunice. Item 8. Councillor Khan?
Can I just reiterate Councillor Eunice's point in relation to point 8?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Councillor Gilbert?
Yes, I'd like to declare a big interest as well in the Carers Link.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Dean?
Item number 11, that is to consider around COVID regulation.
Yes.
What are the directives? Non-pecuniary interest.
Right, non-pecuniary interest and leisure.
Can we check with Councillor Gilbert, Mr Mayor? We think that your interest as a trustee would be a non-pecuniary interest, not a pecuniary one.
Yeah, that was the only interest, yeah.
Non-pecuniary. Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Cox?
Yeah, I've got item 8, I've got an interest pecuniary interest with other properties.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Councillor Pocox?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I'd like to declare interest in item 8 also for the same reason, pecuniary interest.
Thank you. Councillor Cassidy?
Non-pecuniary interest.
Carers Link as a trustee. Thank you. Any others? Okay. Right. I'd like to make an announcement. I paid a visit as mayor to Greenbank, the police headquarters, and I met the new inspector for Highburn. We had a very good meeting. There was a wonderful exchange of views, and I began to realise how important we as councillors are in the maintenance of law and order. I myself have come into contact as mayor and councillor with the police, and there have been issues which we have sorted out. It brought home to me how important councillors are in their wards, acting as members in a way that facilitates the work of the police, bringing law and order to our wards and our borough. and I welcome the new inspector, and hopefully my successor will invite him to the mayor making and establish that excellent relationship that I have had with Carl McCoy. Carl McCoy has moved on now, and we have Mohammed. I think you sometimes underestimate how much councillors do in safeguarding the general public. Thank you.
You'd hope so, wouldn't you?
Are there any announcements from the leader of the council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much, Premier. Just a couple. One is with reference to the local government reorganisation. I made a brief statement yesterday at the Cabinet that a submission has been made by Lancashire County Council, the 12 districts and also the 2 unities, together to agree on the basic principles that have been set by the government on the local government reorganisation. In order to keep collaboratively working, we agreed, although reluctantly, to sign that letter, which has gone before the 21st of March. As you know, Council, that we also sent a proposal in from the Angel District Council for our preferred options, and we got a letter from the office of Jim McMahon to say that he will be reading the proposals in detail, and he will be contacting those proposals that have come in with those people to have further discussions, and then hopefully given opportunity what some of the queries that we would have to hopefully work with the council and our partners in Lancashire to see if we can actually put a proposal in which suits the residents of Lancashire, more importantly. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Dart.
That was clear.
Are there any announcements by the Chief Executive?
Yes, just one, Mr. Mayor. A number of councillors were present this morning at a meeting of the town board, where we heard that the chair of that town board, or the independent chair of that town board, Mr. David Sanderson, would be stepping down. Sad news for us, because David's been absolutely exemplary over the last couple of years in the way he's conducted the business of the board. He's held wide-held respect from all parties and all stakeholders. There's nothing untoward about him stepping down. He's finishing his job. He's now also looking to spend more time in Africa in the coming year, where he does work in international aid. And it's a very positive move on his part to decision on his part to carve more time out for that. So yes, we've received that news this morning, and what I would like and hope we could propose, I know he's going to speak to Munsif personally. If he hasn't done during the course of today, he certainly signalled at the board that he'd like to speak to you, Munsif. But what I wonder is whether we could ask you, Mr. Mayor, to write and express our heartfelt thanks on behalf of the whole council for what has been an absolutely exemplary role that he's played for us.
Right, moving on. Item 4. I move the minutes of the council meeting held on the 27th of February 2025 as presented as a correct record. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Dart. Are there any comments on the minutes?
Comment.
Councillor Smithson?
Yeah, just a couple, Mr. Mayor. Regarding the War Memorial Programme, I did ask at the budget meeting which War Memorial will be done. Didn't get an answer on that, so that's why I'm repeating that. And skip days. The controlling group's flagship strategy to deal with fly tipping. Failing already, no data to say this reduces fly tipping. And the day after the budget meeting, an email to say that March and April's skip days were cancelled. Please can I, and I'm guessing other councillors, have an explanation on why the skip days were cancelled and when we expect them to be rearranged? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Smithson, purely nothing to do with the council side of it. It's purely to do with Suez. They're in a situation where they've had to depend on staff doing the overtime voluntary, and they found that it couldn't carry on. The situation at this moment in time is I have two options. They can either run it Monday to Friday, but only from 6 AM till 3 PM, which will have a massive effect on how it works and how well it works, or we can find another skip. But that is the two situations I'm faced with at the minute.
Thank you, Councillor Eaves. Councillor Walsh, did you wish to speak?
Yeah, sorry, we're just going to get a written response on the war memorial. So no an update was given yesterday at Cabinet, but we'll make sure that's in the Cabinet minutes.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh.
There was no update.
Okay. Councillor Dave. Yeah, we are referring to the minutes. Yeah, which minute are you referring to?
So, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's regarding minute 2841, King George's playing field. It says in the minutes that obviously I welcome King George as being confirmed as to being open September 26th, but I asked for an update of what work was planned in. I didn't get a response on that. Now, I have sat on a scrutiny meeting and the officer has told me, unfortunately the portfolio holder wasn't there, but the officer has said, well, there is no work planned in yet, we haven't sent it out to tender yet, and there is no actual confirmed plan for King George's. So could I please have an update on that today?
Thank you, Councillor Eaves. Thank you. Right. Any other comments on the minutes? No? Right. So, vote to be taken. Can I have a show of hands to confirm the minutes, please? Against? Okay. Abstentions? None. Thank you. We now move on to item 5, question time. 2 eligible questions have been received. First one, Oswald Twistle Civic Theatre. Question number 1 from Sarah Calderbank on behalf of the Friends of the Civic Committee to the Leader of the Council or relevant portfolio holder is as follows. The Friends of the Civic were pleased to hear at the last full council meeting that there is a definite commitment to reopening the Civic. We think that it is really positive that a further £250,000 has been added to the £257,000 which was carried over from the previous financial year. This £500,000 plus will help to make a good start on the necessary renovations. The committee and the wider public group would like to ask the relevant councillors what the plans are in terms of what that budget will be spent on and what the timeline will be for spending it, with particular reference to when the building will be made watertight, as this is a matter of urgency to prevent further damage, decay and expense. Can I ask Councillor Dadd if he wishes to reply or to nominate a response?
Thank you, I'd like to thank Sarah Colwick on behalf of the Friends of the Civic for this question. She's also already outlined some of the things that we are doing, just for her information on how we're going to actually move forward. We have appointed a company to arrange a specialist detailed timber and structural surveys for the roof, and these surveys will start on 1st of April. The same company will use the information for those surveys to develop a specification of works and procure a contractor to carry out the remedial works. We anticipate start of the works late June, subject to costs being within the budget and the weather, and completion in October, subject to weather and any additional works that may be uncovered. The cost of service and project management will be paid using the £10,000 offered by the Resilient Theatres Resilient Communities Grant Around 3, which I'm currently in the process of accepting following Cabinet's approval to do so last night. We have also recently completed some dry rock works and aim to put in place some dehumidifiers to help remove moisture from the property at a risk of all long-term worries. We will keep an eye on this and deal with this as we can't ignore dry rock. Things are moving on, and hopefully there will be some good news by middle or end of this year.
Thank you, Councillor Dunn. Question 2. Riddings Park in Oswald-Twistle. Question number 2 from Councillor Stephen Smithson to the Leader of the Council or relevant portfolio holder is as follows. What is the current status of the refurbishment play area project at Riddings Park in Oswald-Twistle? Can I ask Councillor Dadd if he wishes to reply or to nominate a respondent?
Yes, I'd like to delegate that to the portfolio holder, Councillor Kim Whitehead.
Councillor Whitehead.
I'd like to thank Councillor Smithson for his question. I'm happy to give an update. So a tender exercise has been undertaken, a contractor has been appointed and play equipment is currently on order. It's expected that the work will start on site during April and the work will be sequenced so that phase 1 will be completed first and phase 2 will be completed second. The estimated completion date for the works, which might be interesting, is July 2025. But as always, I'm quite happy to provide any more details that you need, and as a council you are aware that you can contact the Parks Department directly.
Thank you, Councillor Whitehead. We now move on to item 6, appointments to outside bodies. A proposed change to the appointments made at annual council is set out in the covering agenda. The proposal is to appoint Councillor Andy Gilbert in place of Councillor Claire Yates as a trustee on Carers Link Lancashire. The council has a duty to give effect to the nominations to seats put forward by its constituent political groups. Can I call upon the Leader of the Council to move the appointment as presented?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move the report as outlined here.
Can I have a seconder?
I'll second that, please, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Fisher. Vote to be taken. Can I have a show of hands, please? All in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Against? Item 7, appointment of aldermen and freemen has now been withdrawn. We now consider item 8, council tax empty property liability policy. Yes, please.
The wrong landlords will have to go.
Can I call upon Councillor Vanessa Alexander to introduce the report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to present the report on the council tax empty property liability policy. The report seeks to further the council's strategy to improve its housing stock and the regeneration of Hyndburn by adopting new government provisions for exceptions to premium rates of council tax for properties that are left vacant for over a year. These changes are effective from the 1st of April 2025. Just bear with me. Full details of the classes of property that were on exception to the council tax premium being applied are contained within the council report and amended council tax empty property liability policy, which include dwellings which is or would be someone's main home if they were not living in a job-related armed forces accommodation, property being actively marketed for sale or for rent, property left empty by a deceased person and probate has been granted, empty property undergoing or requiring major repairs, structural alterations, property classed as a second home due to a job-related property. The council is therefore proposing to introduce the new government rules fully to further help reduce the overall number of empty properties by updating its council tax empty property liability policy in line with the new legislation. It is recommended that the revised council tax empty property policy attached in your report is approved and the exceptions to council tax premiums and premiums for the property classed as a second home are revised and implemented as set out in paragraphs 3.6 to 3.10. I move the report.
Thank you, Councillor Alexander. Do I have a seconder?
I second the report.
Thank you, Councillor Dowd. Does any other member wish to speak?
Mr Mayor, Councillor Alexander, can I just verify and I've got the facts right? Did the new legislation not come in 2024?
The one that we're applying now comes in 2026. There's a previous legislation that came in 2025 and this comes in 2026, but you have to approve it a year before.
Yeah, because the one that came in 2024 has caused quite a few problems with residents because of the length of time it took them to notify them. But that's fine, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Councillor Connor. Can I have a show of hands as to the recommendations? Thank you. Against? Abstentions. Item 9. Item 9, Hackney Carriage and Private Hire Licensing has been withdrawn. Moving on to item 10. For your information, item 9 has been withdrawn. We now move on to consider item 10, draft pay policy. Can I call upon Councillor Vanessa Alexander to introduce the report?
Thank you. It's just an update to the pay policy, which is an annual occurrence. No major changes. I move the report.
Thank you, Councillor Alexander. Do I have a seconder?
I second that report, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Dowd. Does any other member wish to speak? No. Can I have a show of hands as to the recommendations? All in favour? Thank you. Against? Right, item 11, we now consider item 11, matters exempted from the call-in procedure. Can I call upon Councillor Mordad Aziz to introduce the report?
So, as promised, whenever this administration takes any decision under emergency and urgent powers, As executive from the college, I will always come and present the reason meeting for at full council. And again, I have a quick question. The decision is related to payment of the grant to Handel Leisure of £1 million, which obviously has been debated in the cabinet, and then obviously we then made steps to going forward to allocate in the budget. But it's also to note the Max Associates review and highlight that this council and this administration now taking active steps to work with Handel Leisure to have a plan for its future, especially with the local government reorganisation coming, but also how best we can save our residents. I'm happy to say the first meeting has taken place with Handel Leisure and its management, and we are having additional meetings, and obviously when the time is right, bring the appropriate report to present to Cabinet and also to this full council meeting in due course. But again, highlighted that this was to release £1 million because they needed it, required it for them to sign their account. Happy to take any questions.
Councillor Carr.
Yeah, just I just wanted to make note in relation to the decision making that happened in cabinet at the time, which I attended, and which I had questions at that point. But I just wanted to make note that at the time of the report being pulled without officers or Handel Leisure's knowledge at the time, leaving them in limbo to their accounts of £1 million. I asked the question to Councillor Dowd of what the reasons were, informed them in private to see if there's a reasoning and solution. I was asked that come clear. I've still yet to, it was about a conversation I was had with Handel Leisure, and I just wanted to know whether you could shed any further light on the reasons why there was a delay in allowing them to do so and risking their accounts, which they were not aware of until the cabinet meeting as I expected to go ahead. So I just wanted to give Councillor Dowd the opportunity to clarify whether or not there's any further details about what actually happened behind the scenes and why it was delayed, and whether the funding was had to be called into emergency procedures and not actually just decided at the cabinet meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Councillor Dowd.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Khan, for the question. I did also mention to you that until the cabinet are satisfied when they're giving away £1 million to a organisation, that the money that they're giving are basically is the right decision in the right frame of mind. And I also informed him that we are going to be in touch with Handel Leisure to make sure that the £1 million that they are applying, what other measures will be taken in place for next year. How much money will they be looking at next year? So we had to make sure that we're giving away £1 million, and how much money will they be requesting next year. So we went back and we had a conversation, and that conversation is still ongoing to make sure, rather than at the last minute that we actually provide them with a cheque for £1 million, we want to make sure that they have measures in place so we know on the outside, or are informed on regular basis, what sort of financial position that they find themselves in. That's the reason. We'll always pull a report in when we're not satisfied that the report bears merits on it, and we needed the information, and we got the clarification, and a week later we took the decision, which Councillor Aziz has just mentioned.
Thank you, Councillor Dowd. Councillor Cox.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just on this item, whilst I am in complete agreement that supporting the health and well-being of the residents of Higham is an absolute priority, and I think it's the right thing to do. My only fear is, and well, not fear, my only apprehension is on the work programme for Overview and Scrutiny, Handel Leisure was supposed to appear 3 times, and for whatever reason, 3 times it was cancelled from the Overview and Scrutiny. So the Scrutiny Committee wasn't able to have a little look into what was going on, and I thought it would have been important, especially this year. So this decision now being made and then missing 3 meetings, again, I don't know what the reasons were for those 3 meetings being missed, but it's now pushed it onto the agenda for next year. I just think it would have been nice if it had turned up, or it could have been allowed and we could have actually got into it and seen what they were doing, because I thought that was the whole point of a scrutiny committee and a robust scrutinising system. So I just think that it's important that we hold them to task over this, and I think the leader summed it up there, but it just frustrates me when they didn't attend scrutiny.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Okay, can I have a seconder?
I second that.
Thank you, Councillor Dan. It's just for noting only, no vote required. Item 12, minutes of the Cabinet meetings. Minutes are provided for the 22nd and 29th of January and 12th of February 2025. Can I call upon the leader to introduce the minutes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move the minutes of Cabinet en bloc. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder?
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Fisher. Are there any comments on the minutes? Councillor Carr?
Yeah, just in relation to page 16, when I asked a question of whether or not there were going to be any plans in relation to the Net Zero Working Group and the expenditure plans, and Councillor Aziz undertook to look into it and get back to me. I have not yet received a response, and I just wondered whether or not that was going to come into me.
That way, I will give you written response, and if there has been no.
That was for noting only, no vote required. We now move on to item 13, minutes of committees. Can I call upon the leader to introduce this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move the minutes are set out in block.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Yes, I'll second all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Fisher. Are there any comments on the minutes? For noting only, no vote required. Item 14, motions. We now move on to item 14, motions submitted on notice. I'm able to confirm that all motions have been received. The minimum number of have received the minimum number of signatures required. Point 1. Urgent action on the impact of Winnie Hill landfill site. Can I call upon Councillor Nodab Aziz to move the motion?
I propose the motion as outlined.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Alexander. Do any other members wish to speak? Sorry?
Yeah,
Go on,
I did just
Councillor
want to say.
Yeah.
As I as I drove through Wally Road today, through Clinton Moors, and I actually stopped at Hare and Hound, looked up. It almost was like a scene from the Hitchcock movie, as people keep reminding me on their social media. There's not hundreds, there's thousands of seagulls. And I was just watching the young child and the mother going towards Mount Pleasant School. It was obviously given the time of day, and just before home time. And numerous residents have contacted me that the impact on the children as they leave school is significant, whether it's bird dropping, and I wouldn't call it a pleasure, as I was leafleted the other day on the Duke Street, that actually one of the seagulls kindly did bird droppings. I thought, oh, it's starting to rain. And when I looked on my head, obviously I had to get a tissue out. But this is the real impact that is happening to residents. And we worked with Suez, and I am part of the community liaison group, but fundamentally the impact it's having on residents is not acceptable. And I think an urgent solution does need to be. And if that means the site is closed for a number of weeks while they get to grips with the seagulls and the smell, I think it's the appropriate course of action. And I'm somewhat disappointed, despite the contract being ended, that the Conservative administration at County Hall has had to extend it because no solution around waste transfer stations are being forthcoming. And you can only see the impact it's having across the east of the county. that, you know, solutions are always out there. This is a problem that has been kicked down the road repeatedly by the administration at County Hall, and now you see the impact. I pay tribute to the Tipped Over the Edge community action group led by Gary Pope and his group of volunteers who escalated their concerns and their issues to the Environmental Agency, to Suez, as well as Lancashire County Council. Ultimately, this is a motion that has at its roots residents who have asked us to amplify these calls, and I think it's only right we, as a council, now write to them that clearly you only have to look at the impact it's having, the seagulls, the order, that a temporary closure is the only solution, because ultimately the health and well-being of the residents of that area of Oldham is paramount, and simply what's happening there should not be happening to our residents, and it can't continue. That's why I brought this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Aziz. Does any other member wish to speak? Councillor Alexander, yes.
Thank you. I'm Orphan Ward Councillor. I've been dealing with this for well over a year now. I've dealt with Suez, the Environment Agency, the residents. I'm affected by this daily as well. We've done everything the right way. We've contacted all the relevant bodies. We've got all the information, and nobody can come up with a solution. Seagulls are protected. There's various different species involved. Some are protected, some aren't. They can't decipher which is which, so there's nothing they can do. We've been through 2 breeding seasons, so we're only going to have increased amounts of birds. It's not going anywhere. The only solution that we seem to be at now is to get the tip closed and find an alternative solution that, in the words of the Environment Agency and Suez, we're doing everything we can, there's nothing more we can do. Thank you.
Councillor Fisher.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. It's just very similar to what Councillor Aziz and Councillor Alexander have said. I mean, what these residents are having to put up with now is just unacceptable. I mean, we've had some nice weather recently. You can't put the washing out. They're having bird droppings and food droppings dropped in the gardens, on the cars. It's absolutely disgusting, and I also would fully support, even if it was only temporary, the closure of Whineel, because at the moment nobody can come up with any decent solutions. You know, everybody's been trying to work hard, we've all been working together collaboratively, and it's just nobody can offer any reassurances that this problem will be dealt with once and for all. And just to let members know as well that so strongly do the residents feel, and I fully support them, and I will be attending, and I think other councillors will be as well, that there will be a peaceful protest about the situation held on the 5th of April if anybody wants to attend. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fisher. Councillor Eves, did you wish to speak?
Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, it's sad, isn't it, really, because the reports coming out at Suez and the Environment Agency at one point were showing that the actual levels have dropped considerably. Unfortunately, since then, it seems to have got even worse, to the point that I'm actually surprised that the Environment Agency hasn't made the move to shut the site yet. I mean, when you're hearing stories about seagulls dropping bones in people's back gardens for kids to actually play with, put in their mouth, I mean, the health ramifications could be absolutely terrible. So, at this moment in time, it needs sorting and sorting for good.
Thank you, Councillor Eves. Councillor Pritchard.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've lived in the area sort of probably half a mile away from the tip since I was 14. So we were always used to there was occasionally a smell coming from the tip. But over the last 2 to 3 years, it's just got to epidemic proportions. The smell is disgusting. I don't put my washing to dry outside anymore because of the obvious
gifts that the seagulls bring us. And it's not just the droppings, it's the dropping of sort of food stuff that comes into our gardens now. So you'll find like half a chicken leg or something left in your garden. You know you haven't left it there, so it must have come from the seagulls. Now I do understand it's a massive issue, and I do understand that it's very, very difficult to deal with. But for the sake of everybody living in, it's probably affecting a 3 or 4 mile radius from the tip now. But it's just too much, and something really needs to be done. And I really do feel for Suez, because it's not an easy solution. I think, you know, there's no easy way to get rid of them. But alongside Councillor Aziz, I would look for a temporary closure of the tip to sort of, we've got to stop the source of the food coming. We've got no choice. It's a health and safety hazard now. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Wall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When I was younger, the only time we used to ever be able to smell the tip was when we drove back from the cinemas on the motorway from Burnley. It was the only time we could smell it. Now, I have a terrible sense of smell, which my husband thinks I fake, so I don't have to change the baby's nappies. But I can smell that tip, and it's spreading. But not only is the smell spreading, the seagulls are spreading as well. So there is a significant amount of seagulls now in Rishton. In some of the sites, there is at least 100 seagulls that are on that site probably nesting. So I keep thinking, what's going to happen next year? There's going to be 200, 300 seagulls on these sites, and that's the problem. It's not just an issue in Clayton and Alton. This issue is spreading, and it's going to continue to spread across Hindburn if we don't get a handle of the situation now.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Councillor Khan.
Yeah, no, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I just first of all like to say that obviously we agree with the sentiment around the seagulls and the issues that the residents are going through. No one wants to live in a situation where that's happening day in, day out. It doesn't, and it needs to stop, and there needs to be a solution to reasons why it stops. But we're under no illusion why this motion has been brought forward today. Councillor Fisher brought up last time, is there a by-election in Baxenden because of some of the questions that Councillor Heat brought up? Obviously, what's happening in May is the county elections, and there's no wonder Councillor Aziz has brought this up as well into his motion. And I think what we've got to realise is that Suez is privately owned and privately run site. The Blanchard County Council has some responsibility over it, but Suez has ultimately the environmental agency, and that's where the attention needs to go to find a solution. And that's where the pressure needs to go through the groups, and that's happening. And Councillor Aziz could have brought it up at Blanchard County Council if he wanted to, but he's bringing it up here for you know what reason, the elections in May. So all I'd say is we'll support this motion because we want action on it, because we want it to stop. The tonnage that is going into Winner Hill is dropping from 250,000 down to 90, and then the year after it's going down and it'll be closed and all are going to be stopping. So there is a action that's happening. I agree it's not quick enough, it needs to happen quicker, and that's why I will support this motion to put any pressure on for it to happen for the benefit of the residents. But there is a coordinated plan, and I recognise it is not easy. Where else would that waste go? It's a lot of waste, it's been there for a long time, but I welcome the fact that it will be addressed, and I do also support that it needs to be addressed quicker. But there will be no illusion why this motion was brought forward.
Thank you, Councillor Khan. Councillor Yunus.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I think there is a serious concern, there's no doubt about it. But suggesting that we should close it for a few weeks or whatever is not the solution. I think that makes things worse. Proposing close things here and there, and I think especially Winnie Hill plays a big part. But obviously, to solve the issue, we need to look at other options to get rid of the smell much as we can. And seagulls, I mean, I would like to know which seagull our councillor, Nurdal has been attacked by. I'd like to know which one it is, but I might not find out.
Go recruit.
But I agree with Mr. Khan that I think we need to solve this problem, but I think because of the county elections coming up, and it's very convenient for you to bring it up now, because you're a county councillor, you could have voted on the county hall, you could have done it on many stages, but it's here, and I do agree that it should be, something should be done, action should be taken, no doubt. But to close it, I don't think I agree with that. I think to close the Winner Hill tip will be that's the feasible. So I'll leave it at that, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Eunice. Councillor Parkin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know whether the MP has been involved in it, I've no idea. But I propose that we write a letter to the MP for her to get onto the Environment Secretary in government, get them involved, closing it. Will we have contingency plans if they closed it for a fortnight, a month? I don't know. Where would they tip? Where would they, you know? I know it's a serious thing, but at the end of the day, you've got to think it through. Personally, you've got to think it through. It's not just like locking the gates and for a month or whatever. But I suppose that if the MP can get onto the Environment Secretary and get something done strongly, you know, and get some contingency plans if it has to shut.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Parkins. Councillor Alexander? Sorry, councillor Smithson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a short one. The motion's missing what Councillor Parkins has just said, that we should write to the relevant minister and push it that way, and like you said, get the MP into it and everything else.
More the merrier.
Yeah, the temporary closure, it sounds like a great idea, but we've got to look at the finances to that. Like Councillor Parkins said, where are we going to tip? How much is it going to cost to tip it somewhere else? Because we've got to take it there. And these are all the issues we've got to look at. Yeah, I don't disagree with the motion, I'll be supporting the motion, but we just need to look at the bigger picture.
Thank you, councillor Smithson.
That's a last resort, isn't it?
Yes, yes, you have. Councillor Dan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank Councillor Mudazzi to bring this motion forward. I think there's three important things here. One, there's an issue. There's no doubt the local district councillors and county councillors and various other people, even the residents, have highlighted this issue. But there is an issue. So it needs to be dealt with. The motion is a start. Whenever we bring it or whenever it comes to the council, it's whenever the issue it needs to be dealt with. The mention about the MP. MP has been involved in to try and address it. MP has, wrote to the Environment Agency, wrote to the minister that Councillor Smithson has mentioned, and constantly have been involved. And we will continue actually working with the MP and also, more importantly, the residents to find a solution. The tip can be closed. There are solutions. There's a Suez site at the bottom of Darwin, which can be used by the county council. So, where there's a will, there's a way. So that is a process that we are picking up at County Hall, and we will actually continue doing that. Until this is sorted, until the health and safety issues are sorted, I think the residents will continue actually raising these to the appropriate authorities. And finally, I think it's important to say that I don't know why talking about the elections and what have you. I had Councillor Shabir who actually said in October about a letter forward for Gaza that it was electioneering. So when do we bring anything forward? The council and the councillors are in their right to bring in any motions at any time they feel that the residents have a say. And this is an important motion, and we need some action on it. And we are working on it, and this is another start to actually put the pressures on appropriate agencies to deal with the issue. So I would be supportive of this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Dan. Councillor Whitehead, you speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I kind of agree with the majority of what colleagues have said, but for me, I would say that we can't put a price on our residents' health and the environment that they're having to live in at the moment. And for me, a temporary closure won't be suffice. I think we should be pushing for an immediate closure as soon as possible.
Thank you, Councillor Whitehead. Now, we have had 20 minutes, yes. So can I have a show of hands as to the motion, please? All in favour? Thank you. Against? special educational needs and disabilities, SEND, provision in Hindburn. And I call upon Councillor Kate Walsh to move the second motion. Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
I propose, sorry, I second that you reserve the right to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Aziz. Does any other member wish to speak? Kate Walsh?
We would normally hear the motion prior to any proposed amendments.
Thank you. So keeping every child safe and supporting every child faster and fairer. So every child in Lancashire deserves the right support to thrive, and they should not be left waiting for it. But this currently is not the reality. I am a governor at a few of the schools in Hindburn, and I was really struck that they told me that they were being currently advised it was going to take 10 years to get back on track with SEND provisions in Lancashire. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about my experience, Mr. Mayor. So I brought with me, this is my assessment because I have special educational needs, and this is my sort of what you would call a care plan now, but it didn't used to be called that. So I wanted to bring those to show everyone that this is a bit of paper that actually changes people's lives. They're not just people's lives, but children's lives, and helps them to succeed. So after my diagnosis and subsequent plan, these were done within a few weeks from issues being raised with the school and with the county council. After that, I was able to access speech therapy. I had one-to-one support for an hour a week. I had extra time in exams and a quiet room. Other practical support as well, such as coloured paper and overlays. And then once I went to university, technology had advanced by then, and I had access to a great many more devices that helped me to achieve a degree. Without that support, which of course, to get that support you need a diagnosis and a plan, I wouldn't have been able to have achieved a degree. I probably wouldn't have been in the job that I am, or definitely wouldn't be in the job I am today, because I need a degree to do that job. So without that support, children are really going to struggle to succeed in this borough and across Lancashire. Without the support, they will have to learn, they will have learned no techniques that will help them with the parts of their education that they struggle with, and more importantly, they will not learn their strengths and how to maximise on them. I like to explain to people that a lot of people with neurodiversities, they have superpowers that are attached to those neurodiversities that help them to achieve things in education, in the workplace, such as brilliant problem-solving skills. I was really pleased to see the MI5 recently put out a statement on their LinkedIn, which said that they they really like to employ neurodiverse people because they find that they have a certain skill that really helps in that sort of sector. So this is about making sure that children are on an even playing field despite their special educational needs and can achieve in life. They can get a job, buy a home and live a fulfilling life like I have. So we need to deliver faster, fairer, SEND support for every child in Lancashire, and we need to ensure that every child is safe, supported and given the opportunities to succeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh.
May I just propose an amendment? Do you want to read it out now?
Please.
Before we go to the seconder. So, just the amendment notes, I can it around actually, it's just easier because you can all read it rather than do it the other way. There you go. Maybe confused on technical grounds, but it is.
Thank you.
So the amendment is in recognition of what is already actually being done.
Can I stop you there, Councillor?
Yeah.
I think I've had a request for an adjournment so that
Yep.
this can be read in full.
Would you want me to read it out first to present it?
What's an adjournment?
I have to present what people are going to adjourn about.
Well, can we first check, we have a proposer for an amendment, an amendment. Is there a seconder for an amendment?
I second it.
Thank you. And so at this point it is perfectly reasonable to ask to withdraw. That's, sorry, I think that's a request to you, Mr. Mayor, to adjourn.
10 minutes. 5 minutes, isn't it? Okay.
And are you looking for separate rooms?
Yeah, I will stay.
We'll stay here.
That's Jules. Slowly. Oh, sorry. We'll go out.
It went through, like the motion went, it was passed.
So what are we going to do?
Just ramp it a bit.
I didn't know about that. No, I'm not doing it. It's useful to know, so you know. Yeah, if you let if I
We'll have to leave because of discussion about the amendment.
All right, we can all go.
We're discussing the amendment, aren't we? So we'll all have to come back in 5 minutes.
Burnley, top 2. Burnley, top 2.
It's not mine. Come on, Steve, are we leaving or? No.
There you go.
Yeah.
Should we not stood up from there? Should we not stood up from there? From there? Yeah. Oh well. They didn't ask, didn't they?
Mr. Mayor, we think that this particular statement negates our motion. Because our motion is that the council resolves something, and this particular is just a statement. I just need to get clarification. Does it actually negate our motion?
This is not a matter officers will judge, it's the chair of the meeting, and Mr. Mayor, it's your judgment.
Yeah, I do feel that this negates the motion. Okay, so
should tell us what it were.
back to the original motion.
Mr. Mayor, you had indications from councillors Claire Pritchard, Heather Anderson and Andy Gilbert. So that's the first three indications you have on this motion, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Pritchard?
Thank you. I speak as somebody who's got extensive experience of dealing with SEND provision at Lancashire County Council. I'm going to speak about one case that I'm currently dealing with from a resident. The child is 10 years old now, has neurodiverse issues on the ASD spectrum. She attended a local primary school from the age of 4 to the age of 8. A primary school that did very little to help her, but very restricted on budget. She actually stopped going to school because of the damage, the psychological damage and the dysregulation that it caused to her autism. She stopped going to school in 2023. Lancashire County Council should have provided a statement, an EHCP plan, within 28 weeks of that being applied for. It was actually applied for by the parents. It took 62 weeks for LCC to come back with a statement for that child. And when that statement came back, the provision recommended was to go back to the school, the original school, that had already stated they couldn't meet the needs of this child. This child has been out of education now for over 2 years. The difference in this child from the time that she left school to the time now is marked. She is a shadow of herself. She doesn't socialise with other children. She actually runs from other children. She won't go to play areas. She won't socialise with other children. This child is absolutely desperate for somebody to help and get her a special school provision. Even if it's IATOS, which is education outside school, that still is not being allowed. So this child is currently receiving tutors who are coming to the home for 1 hour a day, 5 days a week. I think we can all agree that that's not enough education for a 10-year-old. I think I have got some sympathy with the schools because the schools, the special needs schools, are absolutely jam-packed. There's no vacancies at the schools to allow this child to go to the schools, LCC schools. If you look at, I mean, in this particular school that I've been liaising with, the reception class of the children who are there now, the vast majority of the children in that reception probably shouldn't be in that school. They should be in specialist provision. I think it affects neurotypical children as well who are already in the school, because the school are having to put so much time, energy and finances into meeting the needs of these special children, that it's not fair to the other children either. Myself, I can speak to my partner. My partner was undiagnosed with dyslexia for his whole life. He was in the remedial classes at secondary school, seen as stupid. It wasn't until he went back to university that he was diagnosed as severely dyslexic. A sister, a charge nurse, mental health nurse. So it shows that with the right input from the right sources, that people can achieve so much more than when their chances are extremely limited. I feel that SEND provision in Lancashire isn't fit for purpose. I didn't need that report to tell me that it wasn't fit for purpose. It will take 10 years to come back from this. This is not a political issue to me. This is something that absolutely strikes at the heart. My brother's got special educational needs. He needs a lot of input. It's something that I'm absolutely championing as a disabled champion for Highland Borough Council. Something I feel passionate about, and something that I want to feel that Lancashire County Council are taking notice of. I don't want platitudes. I want action, and I've got not much faith in, because as of yesterday, nothing's changed for this child that's been out of school for over 2 years. Nothing's changed at all. So where is the change? You know, how long do these children have to suffer before something's actually done for them? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Pritchard.
Claire.
Councillor Anderson.
This is very close to me. I have 4 children, grown up now, 3 of them autistic. During the school, it got picked up very, very early. They don't normally diagnose until they're 5 or something, but they got picked up very early. So they're in reception class. Jack got the one-to-one. And when the twins and went, we got the one-to-one. But to get that one-to-one, the amount of psychologists, funds, everything, the meetings that I had to go to, and me getting scrutinised myself as well. We were trying to blame everything on apart from the autism. But we did get funding for 2, for Jack and Patrick. Both of them went on to university. They don't deal with, like, you know, life, but education-wise, they went to university. They didn't really leave the housing much, but they passed their degrees. Tom, who didn't get this one-to-one, he's very proud of it. He's got a part-time cleaning job now, but when he left school, I also think as well, this SEND needs to be carried on for young adults, because it comes up to the school and then couple of college and they've left and it's like, well, what? Tom had just left for nothing. Oh, we'll just claim universal credit. But nothing. We went to the job centre and they had a special week, like 12-week course that they went on and trained in, how to have a CV and he did stuff. But going back to the process of actually getting the help when you get it is awful. It makes you feel bad as a parent. You shouldn't be judged, because I'd split up with my partner. Oh, it could be, you shouldn't be putting blame on. I was the same when I went to university. Back into education, I got a forensics degree only because they diagnosed me I was severely dyslexic and dyspraxic. Once I got that one-to-one help, again, I got separate things in exam, and I passed my forensics degree. Then I went on to do another nursing degree. So without that help, I wouldn't have got any of them degrees, and my children wouldn't have got their degrees. So it's really important that we need to push this, because it affects more people than what you think. There's people out there that you would never know what, if we're dyslexic, or it can be hidden as well, not just things. I think it's a really, really important matter, and it really, really needs to be passed as much. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gilbert.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, I agree with everything that's been said so far on this issue. Anybody not aware of me, I have a long-standing interest in this subject matter. I took it upon myself from the age of 3 to be in informal care for people with special needs. And I know all the struggles that are faced. So most recently, several years ago, I was a social services friend of somebody who went to special needs school. Luckily, since I had stopped being a volunteer, under the friending rules, you can actually still be a friend of this person, so I still am. I've seen how he developed, but that was all thanks to him attending Broadfield School. He now works, he hosts leaflets through our party. Also, talk a bit about my son as well. So my son, as many people might know here, was fully severely autistic. Initially, he was going to go to a mainstream school because they felt his social needs weren't severe enough for him to not go to mainstream school. At the time, that was now getting statemented. So we fought tooth and nail to get him statemented, because I honestly believe if he'd gone to a mainstream school, not only would he not receive an education, he'd have escaped and have got himself run over and killed by passing motorists within about 5 minutes of being there. But obviously, special needs schools have got the security, they've got the rights to have treatment. He has picked up a lot of surprising skills there, and now he is also a leafleter for our party. Just to sort of end on that, just sort of link to that really, I'm just, as I've just sort of explained how deep my history is with people with special needs, I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank all the councillors of these chambers for accepting me to be the trustee for Carers Link at this point. It is something that's I'm extremely passionate about, so I'll fully support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Gilbert. Councillor Aziz.
Has it, so many members of the company spoken about how when you've got the right set of provision in place, you can make a difference in a child's life and the future prospects. Yesterday I sat into a residents meeting with the parents of a really autistic and a child with ADHD. The offer from Lancashire County Council, in my opinion, was not appropriate. I had to challenge him, I had to push him to give more. I said the parents and that's just one case. We want to break it down to statistics. The government target is 20 weeks for AHCP. Currently, Lancashire County Council are at 34 weeks. The Conservatives at Lancashire County Council, the administration is missing their target by 70%. So that's how vast the problem is. And we need more education psychologists in post, in school, to address the need. And I'm going to be quite open. I only got diagnosed with ADHD, like many of my colleagues probably think I've had it for years. I only got diagnosed just over 2 years ago. But that, for me, it's a superpower. I can hyper-focus. I can literally, if I get something in my mind, I'll go and do it. If they say it won't be possible, I'll go and do it. And that's how I push myself. But during school, I never got that diagnosis, and it was only through chance. But how many children, for me, now it makes sense how I go about things, and I put things in place. But fundamentally, Lancashire County Council has a duty of care to Hindon students and Hindon parents to deliver for them. And this motion is dreaming, making sure we put in and we ask for it, because otherwise, if you don't ask for it, no change will be forthcoming. The only, this isn't something that happened overnight. This is years of mismanagement, years of, the system saying there's issues and it not being addressed. That's why I think it's appropriate that we do write to them and demand it. Because like Councillor Connor said, the election has been called, it is upcoming, and the choice is clear, more of the same. There is an absolute change of investing into it, having targets, meeting targets. The Lancashire Labour has got a firm commitment that 90% of EHCs will be done. And that's a big stride, because currently, like I said, 70% are being missed. So fundamentally, we talk about it playing politics. This isn't politics, this is a chance to raise it at the right level, but also to highlight that we are driving towards a solution. It's important we get a solution. And that's why I think it's important we support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Aziz.
Mayor, you've got 4 speakers indicated that I think you would be able to fit in within your 20 minutes. So you have Councillor Lorraine Cox, Councillor Claire Yates, Councillor Wilson Dad, Councillor Zach Carr. In that order,
Councillor Lorraine Cox.
Thank you. I just want to address the financial and demand challenges facing the same services. It is crucial to understand the context of these challenges and the steps that are being taken to manage them effectively. National reports highlight that educational outcomes for SEND pupils have stagnated over the last decade, despite the costs of these services tripling. This is a national issue, not unique to Lancashire. The number of children with education, health and care plans has more than doubled, creating immense pressure on local authorities. Councils are projected to spend £12 billion on SEND services by 2026, up from £4 billion a decade ago. Despite this massive increase in spending, outcomes for children with SEND have not improved. This financial strain is pushing many councils to the brink of insolvency, and we know the current system is financially unsustainable and requires urgent reform. The Department for Education's central estimate of the cumulative deficit in the high needs block of the dedicated schools grant is projected to reach £4.6 billion by the end of 25-26. Lancashire has a deficit on its high needs block of 17 million by the 31st of March 2025, rising to 65 million by March 2027 on the current forecast. Lancashire have a strong track record of managing our finances effectively. We have consistently operated within a legally required balanced budget, ensuring that we allocate resources effectively to meet the needs of our children and young people with SEND. The commitment to financial prudence has enabled us to invest in critical areas despite the rising costs. We have approved £2.5 million in the current year to support additional staff in SEND teams. An additional £11.8 million was added to home school transport in 24-25. A further £8 million
in 25-26. 5 million has been allocated in the 25-26 annual budget to further support our SEND services. This funding will be used to enhance our assessment processes, support services and workforce development. We are also creating more specialist places in mainstream schools as part to the additional 740 million allocated. This investment will help us adapt classrooms to be more accessible and provide intensive support tailored to the needs of pupils with SEND. We also have a proven track record of managing high needs effectively. This strong approach includes a focus on early intervention to prevent issues from escalating, to provide timely support to children and young children with SEND. We will continue to work closely with partners including the Lancashire and South Cumbria Integrated Care Board, schools and the Lancashire Parent Care Board, schools and the Lancashire Parent Forum to ensure a coordinated and comprehensive approach to SEND services. And if anybody does, Councillor Pritchard, have some issues with any children in schools, please contact me. I'm more than happy to step in and out. It's okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Councillor Claudia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to talk about my own personal experience and trauma that's been caused to myself, my son and my family, including my other 3 children, as I have been let down by Lancashire County Council, and we are continuing to be let down by Lancashire County Council. So my son has got special educational needs. He's been in mainstream school. He was excluded 3 times because they didn't have the right support in place. So I took him out of school. Then he actually got a specialist place in a specialist school where he did really well. He's now 21, so as the members that don't know, SEND provision should continue up until the age of 25. So he's still within that age group. I am waiting still to receive his EHCP that was done in 2022. I still haven't received it. He's under a team in Lancashire County Council that is part of adult social care called the Enablement Team, that are meant to be helping him find volunteer places with a view to him gaining employment. My son has got a lot to give. He's got a lot of skills that he could utilise and be a really useful member of society who can pay taxes and can, make something of his life. That enablement team wanted to close him last week until I complained. They commissioned 12 sessions with him, and they only had 2 sessions with him, and the rest were telephone calls. They didn't find him a placement. I found him a placement, and because of that, they wanted to close him. This is not acceptable. I just feel that my son has got so much to give, as do most people with SEND, and I just feel that Lancashire County Council is letting me down. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Yates. Councillor Cox.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'd like to thank the proposal and the second of this motion. As you can see from personal experiences of some parents, what a devastating effect it's having on them. There was a long and debate at County Council, at the last County Council meeting on this particular issue. So I think the majority of the parents, what they want was an apology from those people who were responsible for providing appropriate education for the children. That's what we asked for as an aid group. at least you can do is to try and contact the parents who have been affected, and there have been many. You know, I know potholes have been the biggest issue as far as the casework is concerned, but this issue over the last 12 months has certainly been the people that I've referred to, our MP and so have been more, and they have been very serious cases, some that you've heard today. The apology never, forthcoming, and the second, we highlighted that there need to be accountability of those people who are responsible for providing these sort of facilities and overseeing the provision. All that we needed, accountability, and that didn't forthcome as well. And finally, what we said to them was basically is at least to try and give us a cross-party opportunity to actually see how we can actually develop a solution. That never came forward. Here we're trying to work with our opposition, and always will do. But there are people out there who seem to think that they failed. It's not their responsibility, it was somebody else's responsibility. They weren't able to meet the standards, it wasn't their responsibility, it was somebody else. They always blame games by people who are responsible for providing education for these special education need children, and they failed those parents. And they failed them miserably, unfortunately. And this is something that the Hindman residents and the proposer of the second has come forward. We need to highlight this for Hindman. For those parents who are, who could suffer from similar situations that have been explained. I had my son who was back in 2000. The support that was there for him at that time, he actually went through Broadfield for 2 years and 3 years. Because the support was there for him, he moved into the mainstream school at Moorhead, and he came out from Moorhead. And although he still, obviously, he struggles a little bit, but he had moved. We went through the mainstream education. That's all I wanted of him. Provide the support so he can move to a mainstream school, so he can actually get his education, and he did. At that time, it was a Labour government. This government has failed. This county council has failed our children and our parents. Let's hope they try and actually get their act together and actually sort this out. Thank you.
Councillor Garr. Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just want to make a first note is that it's a great thing that we have the opportunity to talk about personal experience in the chamber, and I don't want to derail at all what I say. In the personal experiences, it's an important way to do that, and I'm glad colleagues from all parties can do it, because it's not a case of highlighting it. It's a case of people feeling as though they're able to make note of something that they care deeply about, and I recognise that and totally agree with their sentiment as well. But the reasons why I put forward this moment is exactly what the point that Councillor Pritchard and Councillor Dada just mentioned. It's not a blame game, totally agree. It's not a political issue, totally agree. Because this transcends all of that. We're talking about young people and children at the end of the day, and we're talking about what matters to most to them, their families, and making things better. We've all had experience, nurseries experience with SEND, and I don't need to go into my own experience to highlight that, because we're here to look at what solutions are in place. And the reason why on the one hand, it's great to be able to identify and highlight these issues in this chamber. On the other hand, I am a little bit disappointed that you haven't considered the amendment that I put forward, and it's gone to be void and negates it, because actually what I feel as though, and I'm going to go through some of the items in here just to highlight what it is that we're trying to propose, is that the amendment itself, the motion itself, in the way that Councillor Walsh has brought forward, is negated in the fact that at Lancashire there is something happening. So we talk about having an action plan, we call for an action plan to write to County Council. But on the 13th of March, literally last week or the week before, the priority action plan was actually brought forward. So what I put, and what we wanted to note, was that actually the motion you're bringing forward is already happening. So there's no need for us to write a letter, because it's happening. Both Councillor Dad and Councillor Aziz brought this up and had the opportunity to raise it in an appropriate forum. But what we put here is that the NHS Lancashire and South Cumbria Integrated Board and Lancashire County Council, as part of the SEND partnership, are jointly responsible for commissioning those services, and that it recognises, the Ofsted report does recognise that there are widespread failings. We recognise that there are widespread failings, and that there are significant concerns for the children, and we all recognise that, and we're as frustrated as you are that that is not being delivered correctly. But what I also noted is that the Cabinet published this month the comprehensive update on its priority action plan to address these concerns. not writing a letter just to say get an action plan. This is an actual action plan, and what we need to look at is how to improve. And if you'd have brought a motion forward to suggest improvements to that action plan, that would be more appropriate than just saying write a letter, because that's what it is. So actually, what I'd rather have seen as part of your motion is action and items that we could have added to create solutions rather than just highlighting. I agree with highlighting the problem, but I'd rather focus on solutions. And then it supports the Lancashire, what we suggested, that we support the Lancashire County Council cabinet recommendation that the scrutiny committee on that council will oversee the progress against that to make sure that, again, things are improving. You mentioned about things improving, and they weren't, so there's a mechanism in that action plan to make sure things were improving. Hence why we said we support that, to make sure that somebody else is checking and balancing, and there's transparency and accountability, which you've also asked for. We're getting into the detail rather than making statements. And it also supports the recommendation that we write to government, because there's also recognition, as Councillor Cox mentioned, that a lot of it is about funding. A lot of it is about funding. Labour government have just cut welfare. They've just cut civil servants. They are, that is going to make it more difficult. It's going to create a more difficult environment for Lancashire County Council, who won't get extra funding for this. So there's this element where the Labour government, we should be writing to Labour government asking and demanding more money for SEND. Not just asking Lancashire County Council. Lancashire County Council can only do as much as it has in the pot. And I also want to recognise as well, and I appreciate the negative experience here, and I don't want to, again, devalue those, because it is very personal, and I'm sure it was awful to go through those experiences. But I also want to recognise there are many officers in Lancashire County Council working very hard to support children with SEND, and I don't want to make it out as though we don't recognise people who are trying in their difficult circumstances. And that's why what I put in here is that the comments made by Professor Sarah O'Brien, the chair of the Lancashire SEND Partnership, and the Chief Nursing Officer has committed to a co-production with local communities. Again, what we've called for is already happening. They've called for it, they're working on it to make sure they work with communities, because the people who are experiencing this, Lancashire County Council and the Integrated Board, need to hear about those experiences and hear about them loudly, so it brings it back to people, children, and that is what I want to pick up. And we put it here that all councillors in Hyman want to see SEND provision in Lancashire improved. We all want to see that. It's not political. Lancashire, when it was under Labour control, failed its Ofsted report. It was again massive amount of failings, really negative. Yes, I recognise it's the same here. It doesn't help. It's all across the board. So we need to come to solutions, and that's why we need to start looking at how we improve the priority action plan rather than write letters. And I know you had the opportunity to do that in LCC. You voted against this. You made a statement about resignation. You voted down, and you voted against the action plan. Both of you at County Hall. You voted against the priority action plan. So actually, that's what we need to do. That's what we need to look at, and that's what we need to recognise. So I accept that there were widespread failings at LCC. Let's focus on what we do to solve it, because by talking about it here and writing letters, which hardly you get any response from, Muncie, if you don't use write to the MP, you write to government, you write to ministers, you don't get a response from them. What we need to look at is actually engage in the conversation and start suggesting positive stuff, so that these experiences don't continue, because that's what I love to see, and make sure that the children of SEND get the support that they require. Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Councillor Carr.
You're now over time on the debate. You may want to move to the vote.
Yes.
Recorded vote.
Recorded vote. Okay.
Electioneering over SEND children.
Yeah, you never do that.
Councillors, can you let us conduct the recorded vote, please? We can read well, we can debate.
Can we refrain, please, from comment across the chamber?
Sorry, we're just making
Councillor
notes
Aziz.
of the councillors.
Councillor Aziz. Thank you.
Thank you. So you're going to be asked whether you are in favour or whether you are against the motion as proposed.
Thank you. Councillor Judith Addison.
Abstain.
Councillor Alexander. 4. Councillor Allen.
Abstain.
Councillor Anderson.
4.
Councillor Aziz.
4.
Councillor Booth.
4.
Councillor Brayton.
4.
Councillor Cassidy,
Abstain.
Councillor Clements, Councillor Lorraine Cox,
Abstain.
Councillor Paul Cox,
Four.
Councillor Dad,
Four.
Councillor Dawson,
Four.
Councillor Eves,
Four.
Councillor Edwards,
Abstain.
Councillor Fisher,
Four.
Councillor Gilbert,
Four.
Councillor Heap,
Abstain.
Councillor Carr,
Abstain.
Councillor Parkins,
Four.
Councillor Plummer, Councillor Pratt, Councillor Pritchard,
Four.
Councillor Rawcliffe,
Four.
Councillor Smithson,
Abstain.
Councillor Walker,
Abstain.
Councillor Walsh,
Four.
Councillor Whitehead,
Four.
Councillor Yates, Councillor Eunice.
Abstain.
The motion is carried. Now move on to the third part. Accrington Stanley FC.
Can I just, yeah, can I belatedly defer an interest on this, Mr Mayor? I forgot it was on, but as most people know, I'm a season ticket holder for Stanley. And anything that comes up with Stanley, I tend to defer an interest, so I'll do it. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Councillor Dawson.
So, Mr Mayor, I know that you're very keen, if you can, to finish the meeting around 6 o'clock, recognising that there are a number of our colleagues who are observing Ramadan, and the fast will come to an end shortly after, so it's been nice for those to be back with families and so on. So, with that in mind, as we do the debate, we will be closing the list down to get close to 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, yeah.
Just very quickly. Yeah, the Ramadan doesn't open till 6:38.
Yes,
So,
in terms of getting you home.
hopefully hopefully we'll be happy to maybe work with because about 46.
Quarter past 6.
I'll be happy with that.
Yeah. Councillor Waxman.
I'd also like to defer an interest at this point as well on the Accrington Stanley motion, but I may wish to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Waxman. Anyone else?
No.
No, peculiar. So, can I call upon Councillor Scott Brayton to move the third motion?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll keep it brief as I can. Accrington Stanley is at the heart of this club's community. Our professional football club, symbol of pride, symbol of unity, a symbol of resilience. The club that won't die. A catalyst for so much good in this borough, not only through the football itself, but the initiatives that they drive, such as the community cohesion sessions that they've undertook and the community iftars. As well, we must recognise the Community Trust, who do a huge amount of projects that work with a wide range of young people and people of all ages. Every single one of us knows that there's been issues around the club, and that we must also respect residents' concerns. This week, myself and other Cabinet members met with a senior representative of Accrington Stanley. It was an open, honest, cards on the table meeting, and it was a positive meeting, and we all left that room with a collective understanding that we must work together to come towards a solution. I want this motion to pass unanimously. I want every single member of this chamber to raise their hand and support that this council revolves to work together to come to a solution. Let's show the club, let's show local residents, let's show supporters, and let's show the wider people of High and Burn that this council, this chamber, is united in its will to work together to bring a solution for the club and for local residents. I'm not going to pretend it's going to be easy, I'm not going to pretend that it's going to happen overnight, but the only way we're going to get towards a solution is if we take the politics out of it, unite, work together, and come towards a working solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brayton. Do I have a seconder?
I second the reserve the right to speak, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Aziz. Does any other member wish to speak? Councillor Khan?
I was so disappointed there, Mr. Mayor, when you called me in. So all I'd say is I 100% support the comments made by Councillor Brayton, and we'll be voting for this motion as a group in recognition that the topic and many topics, as we discussed, require cross-party support and action to make a change and transformation, because the political back and forth helps absolutely nobody at times, and it's definitely not helping this situation. So, as you know, as part of our proposal and motion that we submitted to the council, we recommended a financial package which was withdrawn on technical grounds and constitutional grounds why it couldn't come forward. I would ask, as part of a friendly exchange, that whether you would be willing to add the possibility and the comment a possibility, consider a possibility of a financial package to your motion, so we can support for it, not amendment to ours, an amendment to yours. I'm only asking in faith, I'm not asking to respond to that. But just so that we can recognise one of the things that we believe is a solution. We've got to consider all solutions. I recognise that the club and the club's difficulties over the last few years, and that it needs to be resolved, and we need to move forward. What has happened in under both administrations, and what we need to recognise is that going back and looking at, well, you did this, you did that, you didn't have this conversation, isn't happening. I'd like to say that when we were in control and we were working at Accrington Stanley, that was going positively and well. And I'd like to thank Kimberly and Councillor Whitehead for continuing those day-to-day conversations with Accrington Stanley to make sure we come to a solution. You're absolutely right, Scott, that it's not easy, because something like this isn't. We want to make sure that Accrington Stanley as an institution, as the beating heart of our town, is supported, they feel as though supported, but also totally appreciate, and many residents have concerns on the opposite side in opposition to that. And I don't not take into account residents' concerns in relation to that, but it's just a difference of opinion in how we get to a solution. There's no right or wrong, it's just to see how we do and how we get there. And that was just our friendly suggestion and how we do. It's not to suggest that is definitely the one. And I'd like to say it'd be positive to work cross-party. We all have a good relationship with Accrington Stanley. We all want to see it succeed. We've all been there, we all support it, and we all enjoy it. And we recognise the venue brings a lot of tourism, a lot of the economy, it boosts the economy, it boosts our profile as a town. And all I'd say is, I know you're working on supporting the group cross-party. Now is the time to put your money where your mouth is and basically involve us in those conversations. And what I'd say is, you constantly say, Munsif, as leader, about working cross-party, about getting around the table together to come to these solutions. And all I'd say is I'm offering yet again to do that for the benefit of Accrington Stanley and Spirit to come to a solution. And I'm more than happy to be formally involved in those conversations as they progress. But it requires you guys to ask us to be involved in that. But I'd like to say we're 100% behind this motion, we're 100% behind Accrington Stanley, and we also want to come to a solution that both residents, the club, and this council are happy with. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Khan. Councillor Anderson?
Sorry, Councillor Khan, I'm going to have to disagree with you just on the money factor. Absolutely, we should work together and try and get a resolution for this. But I really don't think that people, the council taxpayers, should be paying for this club's thing. We have many grassroots clubs that are begging out for money. We've got Great Hall and Glover, just as for one. They love this money, and I really think that because they are a big club, and they should be able to afford to do that themselves. That when they built them, they should have done what was needed doing. So, like I said, non-political. I don't know the ins and outs on what's going on here, but all I know is that sum of money that's been mentioned, I don't know where that's been pulled from, but it's a lot of money when there are loads of grassroots football teams that they do amazing things with that kind of money. So I just think, yes, get a solution going and get talking, because it is a great club and it does a lot for our for Highbury, but I think on the financial side that should be very carefully looked at.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Councillor Polcox?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, this is one of the few times where I'm actually grateful I've got a season ticket at Blackburn Rovers. I also feel that there's a lot of members here who probably won't remember, but there is a few that have been here a few years and have realised the ongoing issues we've had with Accrington Stanley, from especially on the planning side of things. Many times when retrospective planning was brought to the committee, it got very frustrating. I'm sure members will remember that. And I think that the club itself, yes, it is an asset to the town. It is something important. It is a value. It's probably the biggest attractor of people to the borough, I would have said. The income it does bring in. However, they still have to abide by planning law. That's the simple bottom line fact. Now, my ward, technically, the Stanton ground actually is in Alford, not in my ward, but that's a line on the map. But I have dealt with residents for over many years over this issue with this club and the things that have gone on. The council has always helped the club. The council's always been there for this club, especially when there was rent issues in the past. It's been numerous. So, yes, I agree with this motion, but I feel it's what we're already doing and is already in place. I just think that the thought of giving the club money, taxpayers' money, from the, what is it, I don't know, is it 80,000 people in this borough that pay the council tax? They shouldn't be held accountable for the club that didn't do what it was supposed to do in the first place. That was simple. I originally took the planning application to planning committee because I knew it was fundamentally wrong and the disturbance it was causing. And it just saddens me when people use social media then to deride those who are on the edge of that ground and have suffered. I could talk about the loss of parking these residents have had, I could talk about the noise, I could talk about the issues that have gone on non-stop from the club. But the football club itself was never the issue. The issue was the entertainment venue, and that's where this has all stemmed from. Now, I'm also in the building trade, and the job I do, we have to follow plans. That's all part of any project you do. You can't just simply put planning permission in and then decide, well, I'll just build whatever I please, wherever I please, however I please. So I'm not prepared to support, or would have supported any motion that would have meant that club benefited financially from the taxpayer in this town. And I think it's right what we're doing. Yes, we'll continue to support, but there's a lot of words. This is not a new issue. This issue's been going on now for the best part of, 2.5 years? It's been a painful progress that's been made on this. They've known from day one what the issue is. I have sat down with the new chief exec, and he was very open and frank with me. That was nearly 3-4 months ago, and we're still not 1 foot forward from where we started off. And that is what's frustrating for the residents. And that is what is frustrating for me as an elected member, having to deal with this and trying to coax something out of the club. The council, not the stumbling block. We will always support and try and encourage business. Unfortunately, the stumbling block has been the club. Now, hopefully, the new regime that is coming seems to be sounding like they want to do things differently, but they're going to have to put actions into place, and they're going to have to start making a change and making it quicker. Because I don't think we can do much more as an authority, and I don't want us to do much more. We support the club, but we also need to support the residents. That's our duty as elected members.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Councillor Aziz?
Mr. Mayor, can I just interject? I have to be at work, so I'm going to have to leave. It's not that I don't support the motion, and I want that known before I leave. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Aziz?
You can see what's happened to the council budget over the past 14 years. I don't have to repeat myself. You know, what's happened to the council budget, the government grant, and I know that, you know, but if we're talking about giving the grant, council Hindman residents pay, how much comes to Hindman? How much is Lancashire County Council? If the forthcoming is being conservative control, surely that should have been the point to call. That, you know, 286 grand on their budget is a tiny percentage. When you come at ours, it's many percents. So there's a difference. I think this was Councillor Khan talks about electioneering. That was electioneering. That was fine.
Just point of order, Mr Mayor, we're not talking about, there's no motion about finances. The motion
You
is-
just
No,
you
I'm
just
saying-
mentioned
just asking-
it.
yeah, I'm
You
saying not
asked
acceptable.
for friendly amendment, so with all due respect, it wasn't mine, it was yours
Just asking-
suggested.
just don't step on it.
But
May
again,
I have order, please?
but again, we highlight the support. Over the past year, the steps the club has made to widen its fan base is to be applauded. Councillor Dodd and myself, last April, we had the first mosque to match. And that has led to a number of initiatives to widen the sport, to open it to the community. Let's get more fans walking to the match from different community groups, from Clayton Boxing Club, from the school. That's the initiative that this administration has worked with the club. You know, I was proud in a very cold January, and I know many councillors joined us, and from the mosque, we took a coach boat down to Liverpool to support Accrington Stanley. Every single one of them young people, and my own daughter and my niece and some other young ladies came. They were Accrington Stanley through and through. They actually signed the cop. That's the support we as individuals have given to that club. And I was proud a couple of weeks ago, and I extended my invitation to Councillor Eunice, Councillor Corky, everyone, to attend the open iftar. You know, and that highlights the very best in Hindman. You know, that highlights, you know, that we are one community, and Accrington Stanley is at the heart of that community. And you know, I might be a Blackburn Rovers fan, but my love for Accrington Stanley is growing. And I asked my daughter and my niece, they've been to over 15 football games. I said, other day when we were opening iftar, I said, can I ask you, Paul, what's been your favourite match? And I was hoping it was Blackburn Rovers. They said, Accrington Stanley women. And I said, why? They said, we love Sandra Mehdi, the young lady who was attacking who now plays for Pakistan internationally. She wore hijab playing for Accrington Stanley. When I watched that young lady play, I could not have been more proud at the Ram Stadium. You know, and my niece goes, Uncle, can we get a photo with her? And this is a young lady that has never ever shown. I would do why? I go, why do go? I go, Uncle's got a bit of swear. I go, not us. And we went to the center, can we get a photo? And my niece and my daughter said, we've only come to watch this match because of you. That is what that stadium and that ground is creating the opportunity. But for me, fundamentally, this administration will work with the club. Our individual capacity, like I was proud to, you know, organise talks in schools, and I was a speaker alongside the club. And whatever it takes, we've got a willing partner in this administration to work with the club to get a solution for the club, but also to residents. But it's far more than just chucking some money out to get a headline grab. We want our relation to be mutual and actually results-based. And as you can see, we're firmly committed to working with the club and delivering for our residents. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Aziz.
So, Mr Mayor, at this point you've got 6 speakers on the list.
Yes.
You have Councillor, and I'll say who they are, Councillor Eunice, Councillor Eves, Councillor Heath, Councillor Dadd, Councillor Pritchard, Councillor Gilbert, and you've got Councillor Whitehead. So, sorry, there's 7 speakers then. So just with the best will in the world, if you're going to try and get to that self-set deadline of 15:15,
Yes.
if you could just keep that as brief as you're able to, that would certainly help with the conduct of the meeting.
So can we keep it brief, please? Councillor Eunice.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I will be brief. We all support Stanley, everybody says that. But we need to do some practical actions and have a meeting with the club, not just meetings and for sake of meetings. We need to find a solution to this issue. Recently, my grandson went to Manchester United. As soon as he walked in this, in the stadium, the happiness I've seen on his face is completely different, like he was not another planet. And it's not just
for this, but we got a responsibility for our young generation coming up. So football club is very important to us. I know we talk about money, we talk about other things, we try to cover some things politically. It's not. I think Accrington Stanley is very, very special to us, borough, our council. Maybe there was some political exchanges from the club or not from the club, maybe some harsh statements being made, but still we can find a solution. I'm not talking about throwing money at anything, but we've got to find a solution, and if that comes as necessary, we should find a solution, even if we have to do something that on those lines. I think the club is so important to us that I think even recognition, if you go to the country says where you're from, Accrington or Hindburn, nobody knows. Accrington Stanley, they will recognize you straight away, even around the world. You know, some places around the world, who knows the Lancashire. So please, let's not play with politics. Let's get down together and let's solve this. I absolutely agree with the councillor up there who proposed this, and I agree with him. We will support the club. We will support this motion, but support it wholeheartedly. Politics is another thing, but the club is a different thing. So take the politics out of this and let's support it wholeheartedly. I mean, there's many options we can discuss. Why not have a big fundraising from the business people and let them contribute to it? There's many options that we can explore, but let's explore those options and support the club. We respect the residents who have some issues there. We do respect them, but there's always a solution when we want to solve something. So, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eunice. Councillor Eaves.
I know it's a dirty word to some, but I've been a proud socialist. The idea of throwing any amount of money at a multi-millionaire to sort soundproofing problems that he could have solved in the first place is a total anathema to me. So I'm afraid that your part of that motion is too socialist for me. The meeting on Monday was very proactive, very productive, and the person representing Accrington Stanley admitted all the faults, and I just think going forward it is something that we can work towards next. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eaves. Councillor Heath.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think everybody knows the passion and feeling that I have for this club, and like many here that have mentioned already, unfortunately Councillor Cox is a Blackburn fan. Me personally, I'm a Burnley fan. That's one way to divide a room. Now, the reason that I am so passionate behind this club is because since I moved to Hindburn years ago, this is the heartbeat of this borough. This is the jewel in the crown of this borough. And it's not a case of, and I've heard quite a few speeches from Councillor Cox, and even though he's on the wrong side, I have always been behind him and quite fully supportive of them. He's spoken on the hospital, he's spoken on Gaza, and he's spoken very well on those things, and I agree with him. I cannot agree with him on this one, because as a council, we cannot just sit here and say it's Accrington Stanley's fault, and Accrington Stanley say, well, it's the council's fault. Nothing gets done that way. So, with this motion, Councillor Brereton, I look at it, fully support the words that you're saying with it. All the things that you've said about it, basically, I'm just reiterating what you've said. But there's not enough detail in here. So obviously I'm going to support it, but going forward, we need to act, and we need to act now for what is best for the entire community. That is why we're all here. So, going forward, I echo what Councillor Khan said. We do need to work cross-party. We do need to have a group. The only criticism that I've got of the things that I've heard is, I was asked not to look into the past, not bring party politics into it, and that's the right thing to do. So Councillor Aziz, bringing that into it, it's absolutely disgusting. Going back. But going forwards, what we need in this is clear action. So I'm hearing all the right things, but going forward we do need to see action, not words. Because as you said, Councillor Brereton, this is the club that wouldn't die, but if we don't act now, then it will.
Thank you, Councillor Heat. Councillor Dad.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the first time when I met the Chief Executive on when we took control and how we need to move forward, there were a number of things that the Chief Executive told me that you need to yourself or get somebody to look into this issue because it's something that we need to sort out. I'm sure you need to sort out. And Atkinson Stanley was the first one. I took the liberty of sending email. The first person I sent the email to was Atkinson Stanley. That we've taken control. We're happy. We're here to try and work with Atkinson Stanley to see how we can work collaboratively to not only work towards trying to solve some problems, but also work towards better things for the club and the Borough Council. So people are saying that we can work with it. We are doing now. Councillor Whitehead from day one has been in liaison with the club and trying to how many meetings she's had, a number of meetings she's had every month to try and find a solution. I don't want to repeat what Councillor Cocker said. It is not the Borough Council's problem. The problem lay with the club and the planning application. Simple. And we want to work with the club to try and find a solution for that. And we continue doing it. We had a meeting on Monday with a representative from the Atkinson Stanley, which, Councillor Eves said, yes, we had an open, honest discussion and a possible way forward. We're doing that already. I took the liberty of ringing Councillor Khan on Monday. I think it was last Monday. I says, we need to have a discussion, and one of the discussions that I said was Atkinson Stanley. And he said, fair enough, we will be happy to have a discussion. And the second day, I found out there's a motion going in from the Conservative group that we need to give X amount of money to the club to make sure that they can adhere to their requirements. Here, you're saying you want to work cross-party, and here you're playing politics. And this is how many times has this been mentioned? That we're playing politics. This was the probably biggest political stunt that the Conservatives wanted to play. And I know that certain people are funding the Conservative club. Should they be declared in interest, Mr. Mayor? If they are being funded by the owner of the Atkinson Stanley, should they be declared in interest? I'm happy to work with the opposition on anything. I'm happy to work with Council Con. We have done on many things. But the problem here is you say one thing and then you play politics the day after, which is totally wrong, and you shouldn't be doing. Atkinson Stanley has got this council's controlling group's full support. I'm glad that the opposition are actually of the same opinion. This motion was to make sure have this discussion, have this debate here today to see where the council stands. I think the majority of them are happy to actually support him. How we support him, we're already doing it. We're already doing it. And we will be continuing to actually work with the club to try and find a solution. We have worked with the club, not on this particular issue, on many of the issues that Councillor Aziz is mentioning. Trying to actually, have a better relationship with all communities in Hindhead. Work with the schools, work with the local mosques. We added 2 iftars in Atkinson Stanley Football Club and Atkinson Stanley Community Trust. Well attended by the community, well supported, and we will continue doing that. I fully support the motion, and I think we need to continue working with across party to find a solution. But not every issue needs a cross-party working group or whatever. The controlling group are in control and they are working towards it. If we need to actually have a dialogue, which I actually offered that, but it wasn't it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councillor Dad. Now we're running short of time here. I've got 3 more names. Are people willing to just put this to the vote? Okay, so Councillor Pritchard.
Thank you. Over the last
working with residents of Milne Shore Board who've been affected by the flood. I found myself agreeing with people I don't usually agree with today, so Councillor Cox, fully back what you said. We just had a little exchange over the chamber then that Councillor Palm said Sarah isn't a councillor when we mentioned a donation that was given to the former MPs. That's absolutely right. So why was it on your page last week saying that Sarah accompanied you to that meeting to give the £250,000? That's what it said. Myself and Sarah is there. So she's not a councillor. Why was she involved? We talk about not getting it politically involved, but the owner of Accrington Stanley appears on Councillor Heap's leaflet in a by-election just a few weeks ago. So it is being used as political football, which it needs taken out of that area. The issue that people have isn't as Accrington Stanley as a club. The issue is that this council and the residents of the locality have long been treated with disdain by the owner of Accrington Stanley Football Club. I think we've come a long, long way in the last few months when dealing with the chief executive of Accrington Stanley, and I think that's been extremely progressive. But to counter that, this council is constantly berated over social media, in radio interviews, on television interviews. We've given him the freedom of the borough, he handed that back. He's not above the law. You know, Accrington Stanley, when they make planning applications, when they make licensing applications, they're not above the law. Whilst we can support that, anybody else doing this, we would be taking the enforcement. It went to an independent planning inspector in Bristol, and they found in favour of the council that he should have adhered by that. Now, would we be going to anybody else to offer the money to for something that they went against the planning grounds? We wouldn't be doing that. That's not their value for money. Now, I have had lots of feedback from the social media posts made by the Conservative group about the motion for the £250,000 to pay for it. I can't use in full council a lot of what was said, but I'm very, very sure that it was against using this. We actually, all our councillors received an email last night that I think was so bob on the money that it should have had some kind of award for what it said. I will continue to work in the best interest of the residents I serve, and I hope Accrington Stanley do really well. Do I support them? No, I don't support them. I support Burnley, along with you, Councillor. But that does not mean to say that I don't want Accrington Stanley to do well. I absolutely do. You're right, people do recognise far and wide Accrington Stanley, the milk cafe, and that it's overwhelmingly good for the borough. But that does not mean to say they're above the law and they shouldn't comply with the issues that have been raised about them. So I would thank Councillor Whitehead for all the work she's done with the Chief Exec at Accrington Stanley and hope that that gets somewhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pritchard. Councillor Gilbert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So first of all, I'd like to say how heartening it is that there is some cross-party support on this. As the only local councillor who's Labour within Oswestry, I fully appreciate how important it is to have good working relationships with us, which we do have in Oswestry. I'd like to say that I do disagree with the idea that the taxpayer should be funding Accrington Stanley. It's quite a sort of rich club that can sort of fund itself. However, going back to what Councillor Hughes was saying, I would actively encourage anybody that's actually choosing to fundraise for Accrington Stanley. I'm not particularly a fan of contributing to organisations' massive wealth, but I make no secret of the fact that I do distribute my council allowance amongst various charitable causes that particularly need it. So, I may well decide to chip into any fundraiser for Accrington Stanley, but purely on the grounds that it's a cultural institution, not. I don't normally support big business for the fact that it's got a lot of history, a lot of culture. But I'm more like give more money to a smaller local club. I will consider doing a bit to Accrington Stanley, but I'd certainly encourage other people that wish to fundraise the club. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gilbert. Councillor Whitehead.
One of the things that I was really keen to hear tonight was actually politics removed from the whole thing, because one of the issues has been is that a lot of the residents, the club, have been overpromised by politicians who couldn't deliver on some of the stuff, and it's created, I think, this whole wide discussion and the you know the conversation on what's all digress into it, because I just think it's absolute nonsense. Because since May, I have been working with them on almost a daily basis, and I don't accept Councillor Cox's comments around lack of progression. Actually, we've moved forward really well. We've got back around the table again. I asked Councillor Cox as well to get the residents back around the table again, following the whole breakdown of the relationship with the council and the club. And I was reassured when actually the new chief exec came in, and I find him to be on the same page as me in terms of accepting the responsibility that the club needed to make, in terms of that they are at fault with this, and that was a really important step, I think, for us as councillors, as a council, but also for the residents who, you know, needed to have that reassurance as well, that actually they are valid in their kind of complaints around this. And since then, what we've done is tried to fast track really quickly to get them back on the table with the noise consulting firm, which again was one that we have confidence in as a council. Sadly, that report came after the last meeting, but there is progress being made. We had a cabinet meeting with the club on Monday to, again, like Councillor Dad said, to have an open and frank conversation, not being supportive of one over the other. The support we are giving is for a resolution for everybody going forward. That will be at the discussion and request around that table with the club as well, between a small number of us, which will not be working party in this instance, because we feel like we've got trust between us to actually move this forward without the politics and everything else that comes with it. So we'd like to continue that relationship, but also I just want to mention as well, in that meeting, the club actually said they didn't ask for any money. Anthony Hull is absolutely open to paying for things himself. That came across quite strongly to us, and this figure was just not put from thin air, but almost was, without any reason behind what we're going to spend the money on. And the club themselves even said on Monday that they haven't even decided the direction of what soundproofing they're even going for. So, I mean, I'm only raising that because it was raised in the point, but I just wanted to get clarity on that, just to satisfy some of the residents who are concerned about us spending this public money. But I will reassure this council that I will continue to work with Accrington Stanley to get a solution for everybody, not just the club, all of us, for the residents in this country.
Thank you, Councillor Whitehead. Well, can we put this to the vote, please? Can I have a show of hands as to the motion? Motion's carried. And that concludes tonight's business.
Mr. Mayor, you mentioned at the beginning of the meeting that this is your last full meeting. Can I offer, on behalf of us all, I'm sure, our thanks to you for your way you conducted the meetings. You brought a authority to the role that I think we would all recognise. You brought impartiality, which I think we are all grateful for. And I think you've had a focus on raising standards of debate and ensuring that there are the highest standards of conduct that we can manage. And of course, that's a challenge all the time. I'm sure it's something that Josh will want to build on in his year. But Mr. Mayor, in the meantime, if you would accept our appreciation to you, and if we could express that in the usual way.
Well, I did say at the beginning that I did enjoy it. It reminded me of my first class on that first way back in Liverpool. way back in Liverpool when I was on teaching practice. Please sit down. That baptism of fire in Liverpool, which was just down the road from Anfield, I think set me on the course to being the mayor of Hindon. I drew from some of those skills that I learned way back in 1971. Thank you. And that concludes tonight's business. The next meeting of the council will be the annual council meeting on Thursday the 15th of May 2025 at the usual start time of 7 p.m. And I would have told you to sit down. Can I end by wishing colleagues a very happy Eid and for this coming weekend and a happy Easter in a few weeks' time. Thank you for attending.
Councillors, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding whilst the Mayor retires.
It's a small world, isn't it? Isn't it? Yes. My friend told me you're non-famous. I know you from the thing with the John said, well, oh,
Bueno, that's always happening for a minute, sir. Hello. Hello. Hello.